Paris, chérie, mon beau Paris.
Hello there and welcome again to Paris Set Me Free Paris Photo Tutorials. Now, do you recognize this old place? I think you probably do. Let me give you another couple of clues. Alright, starting to look familiar. Okay, well let's find it on the map. Here's Paris, and I think you know that we're going to go straight to the middle of Paris, to one of the islands here. There's Ile Saint-Louis, and next to it Ile de la Cité. Ile de la Cité, zooming in, and you know where we're zooming into, don't you? Right here. Okay, so let's take a, there you see, Cathédrale Notre-Dame de Paris. Hope you like my accent. Let's put us down there, just in front of it, and see what happens. Don't know where we're going to end up. No, it doesn't want us to. Doesn't want us to at all. Okay, maybe here. Alright, so here we're on the little street on the end of the island. There's some guys picking up the litter. Green rubbish lorries, and there it is. So imagine yourself in this little garden here looking at this thing. Alright, and this thing is this thing. So there I was. The weather was awful. I mean, it wasn't awful, but it was grey, grey, grey. So there wasn't much light. Whilst waiting for my Nikon D700 or something like that, where I've got ISO of 128 million, I had to make do with this. I'm a fan of grain, so I don't mind putting it up to 1600 in any conditions. But that didn't really help, I'm afraid. There I was, squatting down, because I had this idea. I saw the church, and I saw these lovely flowers. Now it looks like the flowers are sort of growing halfway up the side of Notre Dame there. Of course, it's not true, and the technique to get this effect of flowers taking up an entire third of the picture is to squat down. Squatting down makes you wobble. You can get on your knees, I suppose, if you're not wearing something that you don't want to get grubby. The ground was extremely grubby, so I didn't do that, I think. And I also needed to go for a pee desperately. And if you know anything about what I'm talking about, squatting down on a chilly day on two tiptoes, whilst needing to go for a pee desperately in extremely grey weather, doesn't lend itself to sharp pictures. Right, that said, I did my best, which wasn't particularly good, but as you can see, I did focus on the flowers as opposed to the church. Couldn't really get the church also very sharp, although I didn't want the church too blurred, because it wasn't that the flowers are the main subject. The church is also absolutely vital, so I didn't want to throw it too much out of focus. Having said that, there was so little light, it had to be quite a large aperture to let more light in, which means if you focus on the flowers in the foreground, the background goes fuzzy. So there you have it. In the end, it was probably pretty much about what I was hoping for in terms of the amount of sharpness, the relationship in sharpness between the flowers and the background. That's pretty much where I would have had it. Having said all that, well, there was a fundamental flaw in this, apart from the fact that I was wobbling, and that was the light was extremely flat. So, so what can we say about that? Well, first of all, I thought, well, the very first thing I thought was, shame, would have been nice, but it's a load of crap, get rid of it. Then I thought, hold on. Maybe this could be a way of demonstrating just what you can do with a photograph which is a piece of crap. Alright, so let me have a look at the 5 that I kept. There was this one, oh look, bird, alright, makes it slightly more interesting, but then again this thing looks like it's half falling over. You see the the horizon there, going whoa, sloping down there. That was probably me on one of my hip wiggles. Right, that's a bit more horizontal, but it's leaning the other way. No bird. You've also got to look at the relationship of the flowers to the church. What are they doing to the church. See, in this very first one, there's quite a lot of them. It's nice. It really literally goes up to a third of the picture. And there's not too much green stuff. I think the green gets in the way. Look, when you start getting green, who cares about the green? That's not what it's about. I want these flowers looking as though they're going halfway up the wall of Notre Dame. Here's another one. And another bird. Oh, look how dull it is. It's so dull. Look at the sky there. I'm going to show you that. I want you to look at the sky carefully, because I'm going to show you another version of that in a minute. And there finally is an upright one. Right, so pretty much pretty disastrous. Whenever you're down low, you're pointing the camera up at a very tall structure, which is like a church, where you've got these parallel lines. It's either going to look like it's tapering away off into a point in the distance, or if it's slightly off to one side, it's going to look like it's leaning in towards the center. So there's not a lot you can do there. But what you can do is say, hey, I don't care. I'm going to go with it. I'm going to play with these angles and see what happens. So in the end, I did something like this. Love it or like it or leave it or loathe it. That's what I did. And I was just trying to rescue what was an interesting photograph, and does demonstrate the principle of how you can get flowers to look far more impressive in a photograph than they really are. And I didn't want to lose that. Also, I did like, to be honest, when there's not a lot of light, and there's certainly no direct sunlight, petals are more saturated. In other words, the colours are richer, because you don't have so much sunlight bouncing off and making them much more washed out. So I didn't want to lose that either. In the end, what can you do? Well, you can decide to go Gothic, which is quite a good thing to do when you've got a Gothic church in your photograph. In other words, you can go totally over the top, saturate everything, do all sorts of special effects. I mean, compare the sky in this photograph to this one. What sky? Yeah, right. But look what happens when you do play around. Just look at the sky there, and then look what's happened. Yeah, where did that come from? Where did that sky there come from? Look at the bird. Compare the bird in the original. Sort of bit of old rag, to something which is, almost quite definitely bird-shaped. I haven't changed the angle, the way that's toppling over. I didn't care, to be honest. Look, I mean, this has become part of the photograph for me. The flowers lean over as well. Look at the way those flowers, they lean over towards this tower, which also leans over. But if you actually go over to this side of the picture and look at those uprights, hey, you know what? They're not leaning over that way. They're actually starting to lean slightly over towards the center this way. And if you do look at the central tower, to be honest, it's more or less upright. So, go with it. I could have done something where I brought this back to parallel, but the photograph was so awful to start off with in terms of lighting. I thought, no, I'm just going to go with it. This is what my camera saw. This is the moment, and I didn't want to interfere with that moment too much. There was the bird. What, am I going to add another bird? You have to decide at what point you stop playing around with the photograph and you just say, that's what I got. This is the moment that I was there, when I was wobbling, when the light was awful, when the bird came across. In reality, the flowers weren't leaning into the center, but that's one of the aspects of photography. You add something to reality. You change it. Otherwise, it's either a postcard, if postcards are genuine representations of what you see, and there's certainly nothing artistic about well, no, I've got to be careful what I say there, but I decided to just go completely over the top with this, and I like it. In the end, I like it for what it's become. Illustrates some real photographic techniques and almost even a few technical considerations there, and it's become a photograph which I'm quite fond of as well. Right, that's it for this time. Do see a good version of this on the site at parissetmefree.com or on the blog parissetmefree.blogspot.com. Do comment if you like, and see you next time in Paris. Bye bye.
Depuis que je suis à Paris, le jour et la nuit, je suis gris. J'ai compris la douceur de vivre vivre. Je suis fou de joie, je suis ivre depuis que je suis à Paris.